the grass and back to the house. A red, white, and blue bunting had been hung over the front door, and a rippling candy stripe of crepe birthday streamers wound along the porch railing. And there were the black-handled kitchen scissors, too, their tiny jaws agape forgotten on the porch floor. Alice pretended to take a picture of them. How strange things looked when they were not where they were supposed to be. She hitched around on the narrow sill and raised her camera a degree to fix on the cloud bank of white balloons tied to the flagpole and holding sway over the daffodils. Past the yellow heads of the flowers and over the stone wall, the tall grass in the fields, still heavy-headed with dew, lay down in silver waves all the way to the horizon, a rough, pinking sheer strip of dark green woods against a blue sky. Alice swung her imaginary camera back and forth experimentally, like an eyeball rolling wildly in its socket, and the world whistled and winked and nodded its shining head at her, beckoning and calling. The fields, the orchard, the lawn and flower borders near the house, all of it rolled beneath her, twinkling and flashing in the spring sun, as if mirrors were turning in the grass and among the leaves of the trees. Alice's heart strained against the cradle of her ribs. She had lived in this place all her life, in this house in a small town in the rocky southern hills of Vermont, with her 5 older brothers and her father, who was a Shakespeare scholar and a dean at the nearby college. She could not imagine ever leaving. Indeed, she thought she would fight like a lion, roaring and biting and tearing limb from limb if anyone tried to separate her from this place, these people. It was interesting, horribly and yet irresistibly interesting to imagine being inspired to such heroic lengths, though sometimes she frightened herself with the possibility of danger and loss, forces that might surround her and try to drag her away. This was a recent development, the idea that something could happen to threaten the world and her place in it. Valiant in play, armed with a painted cardboard sword and wearing a blue velvet cape sewn for such games by her late mother, Alice liked to leap from tabletop to tree branch or the back of the couch, brandishing her weapon at the empty air. Usually victory was effortless and inevitable, a ballet of acrobatic thrusts and parries and swirls of the cape, after which her invisible enemies fell left and right or scuttled away howling into the trees. She was prince, captain, and knight, poised on a rock, sword point aimed triumphantly skyward. Recently, though, her games had begun to unsettle her. Now her imagination supplied not just the juvenile idea of adversaries, witches with long greasy hair, slit-eyed goblins worrying something inside their bulging cheeks, monsters squatting on warty green haunches ready to spring. It also whispered the truth, which was that suffering was real. She did not know how she knew this or when the change had taken place. But she would not play now in sight of her brothers, whose teasing she had once failed to notice, or, if she had noticed, to mind. Suddenly, this year, she did not want to be watched as she struck out on all sides, for now there were things against which she truly felt helpless. The actual misery of the world, things that were unfair, wrong. And she came home quietly at the end of an afternoon of play in the woods, her long sword stuck in her belt, her face a mask. The world of her childhood, with its endless days and deep, certain sleep and quicksilver possibilities, had been abraded, roughened, its perimeter made vulnerable by the apprehension of dangers, death and poverty and terror and war and sickness arriving from the real world, things that rose up against the clumsy, makeshift enemies, the dear enemies of her youth, and opened their hideous red mouths to swallow whole the fragile companions of her play. Now, when she looked out into the world from her windowsill, it was with the knowledge that she could lose it. She did not know how or when, but she knew it was possible, and that made all the difference. The night before, Alice had dreamed again that she could fly. Usually these dreams were deeply pleasurable. She swam through warm air, her body undulant as an otter's. Up from the earth came the familiar sense of